Well, it's after 7:30, so I guess we'll get started. Welcome to my vast audience out there, James and Diana, the looks of it. My name is Jeff Robertson, and with me is Alistair Ling, and this is What's Up in Edmonton for July of 2020. Now I'm just going to share my screen for first couple slides here. And there we go. And I guess I better start the show. Okay. There we go. Okay. The whole idea of this was whenever the Queen Elizabeth Planetarium becomes available, we had asked Tell Us World of Science, who are going to run it, if we could have every Wednesday night to do programming, both public and for members only. And one of the things we proposed was at the beginning of the month, first Wednesday of the month, we would do a little program about what to expect up in the sky in that coming month. So now normally we would do this on the first Wednesday. Yesterday was Canada Day, so we're doing it today. And that's a little picture I shot last night with the moon and the flag on my house. Most of the information I'm going to talk about as far as what's showing up in the sky, it comes out of the Observer's Handbook. This is a publication that is sent to every member of the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada in the fall. It is chock-a-block full of information on just about anything, including the skies of the month, but it's more than that. It's on eclipses and variable stars, you name it. Before I go on, one of the things I wanted to do about what's up is because where we live at latitude 53, quite far north, the most northern of the provincial capitals. And when I listen to CBC or watch the Weather Channel and they're talking about stuff that's happening in the sky, they're very much a Toronto-centric view of things. And so they talk about stuff that we may not see very well here or not see at all. And they're very good about giving the wrong times. For example, they would say if something was happening tonight, they said, go out and look at 9:30 and you will see this. Well, as you know, at 9:30, the sun is still up. And if you go out and look, you're not going to see anything. So I put this together for Edmonton. Now, I want to talk a little bit about planispheres. These are the star finders that we hand out. We hand out thousands of these things every year. We hand them out at the observatory when it will reopen again, who knows. And these are free, and we give them to people who come in. One thing about a planisphere, one thing it lacks planets. Planispheres only show the stars because the planets move. But this is a Toronto, Southern Ontario kind of planisphere, because they're the guys that put this together. Now, this is my planisphere, and you'll notice on it says latitude 51.5 degrees north. That's the latitude of London, England. Now, we're at 53. No one's ever going to put out a planisphere for latitude 53 because not enough people live here. So 51.5 is pretty close. I always like to talk about the constellation Scorpio because I've only actually seen the whole thing once, and that was when I was in Southern Ontario one summer a few years ago. Now, this is what the Starfinder shows for Scorpio, and it's a little bit above the horizon. There's a horizon line. Now, here it is on the London planisphere. It's right on the horizon line. From Edmonton, we kind of see about to here, and the rest of it is below the horizon. So I'm just talking about this as kind of a segue as to why we're doing this for Edmonton. So in July, Jupiter and Saturn return, and I will get to those in a minute when I put on my planetarium program. But there's a couple other things that are happening in July. July the 5th, no, 4th, July the 4th, we're at aphelion, the time when the Earth is furthest from the sun in its orbit. I was in England on a business trip one time with a colleague of mine from Ottawa, and we were talking about astronomy because we were looking at something, and I happened to mention that I was interested in astronomy, and my jaw hit the floor when we were in the pub later on when he thought that we have summer because we're closest to the sun. I said, no. Summer in Northern Hemisphere, we're furthest from the sun. You didn't know that. I said, yeah. So anyway, another thing that's happening, and this is happening on the night of the 4th, morning of the 5th. And it's gotten a little bit of ink. It's called a penumbral lunar eclipse, where the moon or passes through the outer part of Earth's shadow. And it isn't the whole moon going in, it's just the top little bit right here. The moon will darken very, very slightly. It'll be very subtle. And if you're a casual viewer of the moon, you probably won't even notice it. Now, the timings of this are, it starts at 9:07 when the Earth starts to go into the shadow, which is right here. The moon actually doesn't rise here in Edmonton until 10:07. So when it's coming up, it will be, this thing will already be underway. It'll reach its greatest penetration into the shadow, which is right here at 10:31. And then it'll end just before midnight, 11:52. Now, if you were standing on the moon and you had your proper eclipse glasses and looked back, you would see a partial eclipse of the sun. You would see the Earth. The Earth does look a lot bigger than the sun because the Earth is 4 times the size of the moon. So if you're standing on the moon, the Earth looks much, much bigger than the moon does from Earth. Just nipping the top of the sun there. Okay, I'm going to exit this and go to the planetarium portion of. I have to share my screen again here. Oops. All right. Can we see this, or is this not? Can you see the planetarium part?
No.
No? Okay.
Not.
Okay. Let's see here. Please move the window away from the shared application. Hang on here. Close that. Close that. Close that. Your screen is paused. Stop share. New share.
Okay. Well, I can see this, Jeff. They're just knocked loose in class.
Yeah.
PowerPoint.
Yeah. Okay. That's not what I want. I'm trying to find my. Where's my? Hang on here. All right. I'm just going to stop the share and go right from the beginning. Okay. Let's start this again. All right. So. And. Nope. Sorry about this. I'll fix it in editing. Share screen. And share computer sound. Okay. Should be able to see this. Okay. Okay. So I'm setting the time for 11 o'clock. This is the sky from Edmonton. Jupiter and Saturn are now above the horizon. They actually reach opposition, the point where the sun, the Earth, and the planet, Jupiter reaches opposition on the 14th. They're all in a line, and that means when the planet's in opposition. It rises as the sun is setting, and Saturn is right behind it. It comes into opposition on the 20th. So they're going to stay fairly close together all year long, and later on in December they're going to get very, very close together. They'll make a superb view even in a telescope. They'll be within a degree of one another. It'll be quite the thing to see. So I'm going to advance this. Well, before we do that, so I'm going to now Jupiter is one of my favorite objects to look at in a telescope, and I'm going to zoom in on it here. There we go. Because you can watch the change the timing. You can watch the moons revolving around the planet, and Jupiter has a fairly quick rotation. Its day is 10 hours long, so you can watch for the red spot to come around the corner here, hopefully before the Jupiter sets. But you can actually, if you look at Jupiter and then come back a couple hours later, you'll see that two of the moons, especially Io and Europa, who are the ones that are closest to the planet, have moved. Looks like we're not going to see the red spot because it's almost 3 in the morning here. You'll also see shadow transits. You'll need very good seeing for that to see. Oh, there's the red spot right there. It's coming into view at 3:40, just as it's starting to get light. But Jupiter is a really interesting object to watch throughout the night and throughout the year. So I'm going to stop that and zoom out. And it's daytime, so I'm going to reset the clock here. Let's go 11:30. Okay. And we're going to change the time per day. And through the month, I'm just going to advance this a day at a time. You can see the moon goes zipping past Jupiter and Saturn. Later on in the month, Neptune joins the scene, which is a telescopic object. And let's see here, I'm just going to move a little bit over here. Uranus later on in the night, or later on in the month, I should say. And I hit the wrong button. Let's go back. All right, August 1st. By the end of the month, Mars will be rising at 11:30. We'll be up. So you'll be able to see Jupiter, Saturn, Mars, and with a telescope, Neptune and Uranus, all around midnight, near the end of the month. Now, if we go to the morning sky, I'm going to set this for 4 a.m. And like I say, this is set for Edmonton, so it gets pretty bright. Let's make it at 3:30. There we go. Okay. So in the morning sky, you've got Saturn and Jupiter will set, but Venus, which was dazzling in the evening sky for several months, is now in the morning sky. And we've also have a new comet popping into view, which is this Neowise. Let's just advance this a day at a time, and you can see its path. It kind of pops up and then it goes back down again. Oh, better move that over a little bit more. Through the month, and by the end of the month, it's gone. I'm going to pop in real quick here because we had a few comets that were supposed to be great and weren't. I was kind of dismissive of Neowise, but Neowise is a real deal. And these are two pictures, one regular, one enhanced, that one of our members, Larry Wood, took of Neowise. It's a
real bright comet. It's really cool to look at. Go out and see it.
It's a brief appearance. It's at its highest point on the 22nd. I'll just go back to then. In what we call greatest western elongation. It does not get very high above the horizon. If we make it 4:30, and the sun is starting to come up. There, get rid of the sun. So it doesn't get very high, but Mercury and Venus make a nice pair in the morning sky. Now, we still also have Comet Pan-STARRS is still hanging around. Let's see, where are you? Maybe it's too late here. Let's. I had it. Where?
It should be starting to drop through Eastern Virgo into Libra, something like that.
Oh, there it is. There it is. Okay, yeah. Okay.
Oh, it's still that high.
Yeah, it's still. It's coming. Yeah, it was coming through Ursa Major for at the beginning. So let's go back and go. Where are you? Oh, there it is. Okay. So let's just center that guy. So through the month, it's slowly dropping. And there's that other comet I was talking about, Neowise. And into August, it's pretty much below the horizon. So do you have anything to add to the planetarium portion, Alistair?
No, that's basically about it. I think the key thing is you're talking about Scorpius is the sort of the reddish star.
Oh, yes, Antares, yes.
Antares. And
yeah.
That's one of the things that is sort of noticeable once you get to 11:30 in the evening. The sky finally gets dark enough. You look south, and the reddish star is Antares. You're already in August. I think that's probably why Jim's doing that.
Yeah, it's oh dear, what have I done? Let's go back here.
You've got the silly thing in reverse.
Yeah, I know, yeah. There we go. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, this particular star chart doesn't show it in relative how obvious it is. Like, as the sky gets darker, there's only about 5 stars out that you can see. This will be one of those.
Yeah, Antares is extremely bright. It means rival of Mars, so it does definitely have that orangey red color. It's also the thinnest of the zodiacal, is that even a word? Zodiac constellations. Like, according to the newspaper, I'm a Scorpio, even though when I see where the sun actually was when I was born, I was actually in Libra. True Scorpios would be the rarest astrological sign, because the sun is only in Scorpio for about 8 days. Although the newspaper says it's in there for a month, but it zips through there in 8 days. So, and that's my way of saying I don't think much of astrology.
Well, the other thing I find interesting is that how the different cultures around the world have seen the constellations as very different things from what the Greeks and the Romans have bequeathed to us, this very Latin-based thing. And actually Libra, which is under all those numbers, used to be the claws of Scorpius. And so the actual names of some of the stars in Libra are things like left claw of the scorpion. is its sort of translated name. But it's as things changed over the course of time. Things got reclassified and redivided, so it's now its own constellation. A long time ago, it was all part of one big constellation.
Okay, I did not know that. Yeah, I have some charts with constellations as seen by the Northern Cree. Stories that go with them. They're in this room here somewhere. But okay, I'm going to stop sharing that and get back to. Okay. All right. Well, we'll go through this one more time because I was pointing at this and thinking everyone was seeing it. So where we live at this time of year, we don't get night. We get astronomical twilight when the sun is between 12 and 18 degrees below the horizon. And these clouds are way up in our atmosphere, 80 kilometers high, and they are being illuminated by the sun, and they're a brilliant electric blue color. So this is a picture I took last year, just standing on my street in the middle of the city, not far from West Edmonton Mall. There's a Misericordia Hospital. So it's not something you need to get out of town to see. They're fairly obvious, and they're this beautiful electric blue color, and they have all sorts of structure in it and waves and such like that. Now last night there was a very, very good display, and this is a picture I took last night, just parked on the sidewalk in front of my house, and there they were. I took my camera back inside and went out again, and it had spread all the way across the sky. When this first started, it was just over. I'm looking into the northeast here, but it had gone right across the sky into the northwest. So it's something that we see. We're privileged to see here in Edmonton. We're in a great spot. If you're further south, you can probably see them in Calgary sometimes, but people in southern Ontario or in the Maritimes, they may see them once every 20, 30 years. We see them, well, this time of year, darn near every night.
What do you see when you look at the moon? When it's full and round, do you see a balloon? Does it look like a cookie with the bite taken out? What do you see when you look at the moon? It follows a path every
I really like
month
that
of the
song,
year.
and it
After 7
seems
days,
to
the
fit.
first quarter
So
appears.
the moon phases for July. We don't have to wait too long for full moon. It's on July the 5th. It's popularly known as the buck moon. It's all because it's when the male deer start getting their horns. It's also known as the thunder moon. I presume that's because of storms. The wart moon, I don't know why. Or the hay moon, because the hay is getting ready about now. Third quarter is on the 12th. The new moon is on the 20th. And first quarter is on July the 27th. Now, I love looking at the moon. It's a really interesting object. Last couple times I've done this, I pointed out some feature on the moon. So today we're going to go in the mountains, and specifically the Apennine Mountains, which are along the border of Mare Imbrium, the Sea of Rains. This is a picture taken on the day 8. Day 0 is new moon. If you look at these mountains, say on day 7th, and the sun hasn't fully illuminated them, you can see the tops of the mountains as the shadow changes. And this is a picture I took a few days later. It's probably day 9, and you can see the mountains there. Like I said, if you catch it when the terminator is right along this line here, you'll see just the tops of the mountains illuminated. The moon along the terminator is always the most interesting part. Full moons, I find, well, for one thing, they're extremely bright, especially in a telescope. They're almost blinding. You got to put a put a filter on. But the moon looks flat and features disappear, where along the terminator, the features are always just that much more interesting to look at. Last month I talked about, oh, there's my arrow pointing at the Apennine Mountains. Last month I talked about the Lunar X, which was visible on the 27th, and I went out and there it is there. And that is a feature seen along the terminator, and it's very transient. It only lasts about 4 hours. So the next chance to see the Lunar X, I believe, is in August. Generally, every 3 months, the moon happens to be in our sky when you can see the Lunar X in. There's also the Lunar V, which I could clearly see in my telescope, but I, for the life of me, could not get a good picture of it. So next time. Now, just to illustrate the shadows of the moon, I found a couple pictures of the shadows of the moon from about as close to the moon as you can get. And this is from Apollo 17. This top picture is right after they landed. And the bottom picture is just before they left. And you can see some of the stuff they threw out the doors. But, you know, if you look at these craters off in the distance here, and with the sun angle changing, they're almost invisible. You know, plus, you know, they've kicked up the ground a lot, and there's tire tracks from the rover and everything. But, I mean, you should still be able to see these craters, you'd think. But because the sunlight has changed so much, they've kind of disappeared. They always like to land when the shadows were long so they could see all the features and not land at a crater or land with one leg on a rock and then have the thing tip over. And okay, this is my history part, which Alistair tells me he actually liked. Happened this month in space. And as I've pointed out before, I could find something in every month, but I only like it in 5-year increments. So this year, the year is going to end up in a 0 or end up in a 5. I'm not going to talk about Apollo 11 because that's the 51st anniversary. If this was last year, I'd talk about it, but I'm not talking about it this year. So this is a Perseverance rover, which is going to Mars. It was supposed to go 2 years ago, but they ran into some serious hardware problems, and the mission was delayed 2 years. Going along with Perseverance rover is Ingenuity, which is a little helicopter. As you can see, it's not very big, and it's going to sit on top of the rover. It's solar powered. It's going to take off and kind of scout ahead for Perseverance. Perseverance is a very similar design to the Curiosity rover, which is up there right now. So it's nuclear powered. It doesn't rely on solar panels. The helicopter does. But it can keep on trucking for many, many years. It doesn't have to worry about dust covering the solar panels and causing the power output to drop. So it is going to go on the well, maybe it was supposed to go on the 20th, then it was the 27th. Now it's the 30th. It was announced today they bumped it back to the 30th. As long as it goes before August 15th, because that's when the launch window closes. If it doesn't go then, they got to wait another 26 months for the planets to land up. Also, and I'm kind of curious because this isn't really getting a lot of ink. There's also 2 other missions going. China is launching an all-in mission called Tianwen-1. And it is an orbiter, a lander, and a rover, all in one package. And it's supposed to go on July 23rd. I imagine they'll probably use the Long March 5 rocket to launch it. I couldn't find anything as far as the vehicle they're planning. And a new entry into the planetary exploration game is the United Arab Emirates are launching an orbiter, supposedly on the 14th. They're going to use a Japanese H-2 rocket to launch that. Perseverance is going to arrive in February. The date depends on when they launch it. So why am I talking about this? It's because in 2015, New Horizons flew by Pluto, and it was the first time we ever had close-up view of Pluto. Now, New Horizons was launched in 2006 when Pluto was still a planet. By the time it got there, it was a dwarf. It had been demoted to dwarf planet. But this is an artist's conception of New Horizons flying past Pluto. Now, New Horizons isn't very big, as you can see. It's an extremely tiny spacecraft compared to Voyager, which is quite a large spacecraft, or Cassini, which was as big as a bus. New Horizons was a tiny little thing, but they had to make it small to fit into the rocket they were using, which was the Atlas V, to give it enough oomph to get it out to Pluto in a reasonable amount of time. Now, prior to New Horizons, this was the very best picture we ever have of Pluto, and this was taken by the Hubble Space Telescope. And you can see lots of detail, sort of. But New Horizons arrived on July the 14th and took all sorts of pictures. It was transmitting, where's my transmitting data here? A transmission speed of 1 kilobyte per second. That was its transmission speed. So the data it was sending back was not read in real time. It was actually stored in its memory blanket. It used a flash drive system and transmitted over the next 18 months to get all the data dumped from Pluto. It found Pluto was a very unusual planet. It had a very young surface, which surprised everyone. They expected it to be a dead, cold rock in space, which means it would just be pitted with all sorts of craters. But it's not. There's not a lot of big craters on Pluto, which indicates it's geologically still active, which means there's got to be a heat source inside the planet reshaping it. This big feature here, the Sputnik plains, or Sputnik planum, I guess that's Latin, is relatively free of craters. It's mostly solid nitrogen. They also found evidence that indicated liquid nitrogen lakes on there. And another big surprise was it had an extremely thin atmosphere. Also, Pluto has a moon, the largest moon in comparison to its parent planet is Charon. And it looked, again, not a lot of craters, and it should be hammered. So something's going on Charon to cause it to resurface its face. Now, it didn't take too many people too long to look at this iconic picture of Pluto and say, well, I guess they got the name right, because Pluto's head fits into the Sputnik plane just about right. So if you go back, see? Yeah. There you go. And that was the very first time we got close-up look at Pluto. But wait, there's more. Let's go back 55 years, July 15th, 1965, when we got our very first look at Mars. Before that, Mars, this was a typical map of Mars. This was hand-drawn with these channels, canali, which got interpreted as being canals, which says, oh my God, they're building canals on Mars, there must be life on Mars, etc., etc., etc. However, when people took photographs of Mars with early telescopes, it would just look like that. They didn't see any canals. But still, the hope was that, there's something really, really interesting in Mars. So in 1964, in November 1964, they launched Mariner 3 and 4 to Mars. Mariner 3 was a sister ship. It failed shortly after launch, and from the telemetry, it seems like the shroud covered it to carry it through the atmosphere never came off. So then the solar panels couldn't come out, and then the thing just died. But Mariner 4, and this is Mariner 4, made it to Mars and flew by Mars on the 15th of July, 1965. Again, it wasn't a very big spacecraft. Here it is in tests. You know, compared to what they're launching now, like the Perseverance rover is the size of a good-sized car. This one would probably fit in the back of that good-sized car. So, after making the trip, it flew across the southern, this is a flat map, but it flew across the southern hemisphere of Mars and took 20 pictures. Now, it's, as luck would have it, it flew across a fairly uninteresting part of Mars. If it had have moved a little bit over this way, it would have flown right over top of Nix Olympia, the biggest volcano in the solar system. But instead, it flew over a kind of a dull portion and transmitted 50 pictures at the bit rate of, wait for it, 8.5 bits per second. Not kilobits or megabytes, bits. So it took a long time. And this was the very first picture that we saw of Mars close up. You can see all the detail. And there's another one. They presented, the people at JPL presented Lyndon Johnson, who was president of the United States at the time, a picture. And I think this was the picture showing the success of Mariner 4. And he looked at it and he said, it looks just like the moon. What it found was that Mars had no magnetic field, had an extremely thin atmosphere, had a surface temperature of 100 degree, minus 100 Celsius, and there was no water found on Mars at all. It continued to operate after it flew by Mars. It went into a solar orbit, measuring the solar wind and micrometeorite impacts. Its last signal was sent on December 21st, 1967.
Still pretty good.
Yeah, so it's still floating around up there if we want to go find it, I guess. And I put this up here for Heavens Above. It has all sorts of information. If you want to go see the ISS, which will be making, starting to appear in our sky in the morning, early morning, 2, 3 in the morning, but later on in the month, it starts to show up in the late evening around midnight, if you want to watch the ISS come over. And I think that's it. So I'm going to stop sharing. And I'm going to, because I talked about Mars, I'm going to pick a different background. There we go. Okay. So, are there any questions? Attack. No? I know James and Diana both have their microphones muted. I don't know if they want to ask me anything, or if Alistair wants to ask anything or add to anything.
I think it's pretty impressive the technology was able to last as long as it did back then.
Yeah.
Obviously, well engineered and thought out.
Take it to mommy.
Well, yeah. Well, look at Voyager. You know, the Voyagers launched in 1977, and they're still working.
Yeah. One thing I didn't realize is Perseverance. You're saying has nuclear isotope heat generation.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was all solar panel stuff.
No, it's like Curiosity. It's also uses the RTG power set. So they will last for a long time. Probably the mechanics of the wheels will probably fail before the power supply does.
Yeah.
If you want to read more about New Horizons, this is a very excellent book. It's written by Alan Stern, and it's probably backwards. No, it isn't. Okay, Chasing New Horizons. Excellent book. All about the encounter of Pluto. New Horizons, of course, is still operating. It flew past, what's the name of that? What'd they name it? It was...
Arakoth.
Yeah, there we go. On January 1st, 2019. And I believe they picked a new target for another trans-Newtonian object for it to visit.
Yeah, I was thinking that I know there's been a lot of buzz about the next target.
Yeah. Yeah, and it'll keep going, probably until it runs out of stabilizer fuel. Its power supply will probably last quite a bit.
Yeah.
But, yeah. All right.
So, guys, I guess I have one question.
Sure, fire away.
Not so related to this, but myself, I'm actually going out to Mount Robson for the weekend.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to bring that little scope with me. What's any advice for someone who's new out in a place like that as opposed to even here? Any differences? Hoping I can even get sky because here it's been pretty cloudy for the last couple of weeks.
So, what's the date that you're going?
We're leaving tomorrow. We're actually just going for this weekend.
Okay. Oh, okay. So the moon is almost full. So what you will notice is that it doesn't really get completely dark at night. So a true dark sky is still in the future for you. Because when the moon is full, and once you get dark adapted, because that's the big thing, is allowing your eyes to get accustomed to the low light levels. And that often takes 15 to 20 minutes. And once you do, when it's full moon, you can see things on the ground very easily. So it's not truly dark. So your best target will actually be the moon. As Jeff said, when it gets full, it gets very bright. So even in a fairly small telescope, use your sunglasses. And it sounds a little counterintuitive, but if you don't have a little screw-in filter for the eyepiece,
I did get a filter.
Okay. Sunglasses for me work really well. So that'll be the big thing there. Because the background sky will be a very faint, deep blue, you're not going to be able to see really deep things. So what you will want to focus on, especially Jupiter and Saturn in the south. And because Saturn, even at low power in that telescope, you'll see it's like, oh, it's got rings, all right. And Jupiter will have the moons, and as Jeff said, the moons shift over a 15, 30-minute time frame. Those will be the three big things. And then finally, what you want to look for is are things called open star clusters. The typical one will be the wild duck cluster. It comes in a catalog as M11, Messier 11, and that's really nice. Even in the city, when you're looking through this veil of light that the moon is going to be causing our atmosphere to scatter a whole bunch of star clusters are the thing to go for.
So will those ones be higher in this? I don't like being this is at Mount Robson and there's mountains around all the way around. I don't know if we're going to be able to see low enough in the horizon to even get to the planets.
Oh, good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the wild duck cluster is pretty reasonable for that.
Okay.
M13 should be high enough to see.
Yes, Messier 13 up in Hercules.
And
Okay.
the Ring Nebula and the Double Double. Not the Double Double.
Yep.
I don't know if a
Alberio.
I don't know if a 5 Alberio. I don't know if a 5-inch will pull a double double. Will it?
Oh, it should.
Yeah.
You'd need full power, 150 to 200
Yeah.
power.
Okay, I don't have. I got a 65 that it came with, and I picked up a 2 times Barlow, so I'm only going to get about 130 at most.
Yeah. Okay. I'll just have a look around.
Yeah, there should be lists out there on the internet if you're sort of scrambling for material. Just top 10 summer deep sky objects. So you should get Alberio. It's a beautiful topaz and pale blue sapphire double. One of the prettiest out there in the sky. One of the things that I highly recommend is a book by a Canadian amateur astronomer, Night Watch, by Terence Dickinson. Night Watch.
Yeah.
And in the back, there's a perfect.
Oh, there you go. You got it.
Yeah,
In the back.
I bought this out of a place in Didsbury there down in Calgary.
Okay.
He recommended that with the moon filter and the red light.
Good. Yeah.
Okay.
When the moon is full, dark adaptation is a little what's the word? Less special, a little more generous. If someone opens the camper door and white light floods out, it's not so bad because the moon is full. But in the back of that book, you'll see a list of some of the best deep sky objects, and really with that book, you can't go wrong. It's probably one of the best guides out there. There's some just binocular. Do you have binoculars?
I do actually. I also got a set of what are they? 1570.
Oh,
okay,
the Canadian Tire specials.
No, these are like a Celestron. Like 25 times 70.
No, I hope not.
No, 1570. Canadian Tire sells them.
Okay.
You might have bought it somewhere else, but I bought a couple pairs of Canadian Tire.
They're big. They're like huge.
Yeah. 1570. You've almost got to be a weightlifter to.
Yeah,
carry
I
those things.
think that's there. I think they're 1570.
Okay. The thing to do there is, it's actually shown in Night Watch, is you get a little inflatable rubber dinghy, and you only inflate it about 3/4, and you just lie back. Your hands prop up on the sides, so they're essentially holding the weight. And then to change what you're looking at, you just sort of apply more pressure with your legs on the bottom half of that. So it pushes you up, a little less pressure, and it's very stable, because the first thing you're going to do is you're just going to handhold them, and you're going to be this.
We did get a tripod for it as well, for the binoculars as well.
Yeah, it's tripods are tiresome because you sort of do this like and overhead, once you get into the summer Milky Way, lying on your back like that with your hands propped up, resting, and it's just in a way, don't even worry about what it is you're looking at. Just slowly scan along the Milky Way, and you'll just see, there's a patch of stars there. There's a blob of gas there, and more, and dark lanes, and it's really, in a way, enjoy it as much as you can, because it's very tough for the beginner to be able to go from 15 power to a star chart, and then you go, where was I again? It's pretty tricky. But a favorite of mine would be beautiful in those binoculars is what's called the coat hanger cluster, and it's quite high up in the sky. If you imagine the summer triangle, so you have Vega, Deneb, Altair. It's not quite in the middle, but it's almost in the middle. It'll be in Night Watch. Look for the coat hanger, and it'll be an upside down coat hanger. Beautiful, like 6 or 7 dots that way, and then hook underneath. A very beautiful object, very easy to see, perfect for that. And right nearby will be a globular cluster, Messier 71, in Sagitta, but it's just like half a field away. And if you know where you're looking, you'll be able to pick out the Dumbbell Nebula in those binoculars as well. But it's for a beginner, it's quite the challenge to go from 15 power there to your star charts, back up, back down, back up. But it's one of those things where you just always start at what you know and then move off out into the unknown. So it's essentially, it's like start at the Tim Hortons on 5th and
it was like when we just moved here. We were just moving to St. Albert. It was like, okay, we know how to get to here. Okay, spreading out.
Yeah, and that's essentially how you learn the sky. Is every now and then there's just this huge jump over to the next recognizable feature. But for example, it's like you could always start at Altair. And then you go, okay, well, with that pattern, it's like a hockey blade. So if I go to the handle, that's where the next thing will be. And you just sort of work at it from there, when you put your binoculars down to look at the chart and then you go back up, you can always very quickly go, okay, Altair, blade, handle. And that's essentially how you anchor that into your head, but it takes a little while. Patience is the key word, and you'll get it. The stability. The other thing I often do, the binoculars help a lot. The roof of the car, you prop your elbows up on that.
Okay. Yeah, we got the binoculars at Father's Day, and then the telescope the week later, and it's been cloudy ever since.
Yeah. Now we know who to blame.
Yeah.
Because as much as Messier 13 will also be super easy in those binoculars. Again, for the beginner, Hercules is in a part of the sky where there's 6 or 8 stars of almost the same brightness, and are they oriented this way or this way or this way? And it takes a while to know how to jump into the spot. But it's always, for me, getting to Hercules. I learned how to do this from downtown Montreal, where you couldn't even see Hercules. So it would be start at Arcturus and Vega, and then Arcturus has this nice, perfect martini glass, capital Y shape. And so the star at the top, halfway between that and Vega, that's where M13 is. And you can't see any stars, you just aim right in there, and you sort of leap.
Right.
And so part of it is, if you know where you're looking with the eye and you bring your binoculars up, most people point too low. Like you think, oh yeah, I'm high enough. And so, no, you got to crank back another bit. So some of that is a learning process, like shooting basketball hoops. Just like you have to shoot a few to get to know just how much to bring the binoculars up to where it is, where you see it, to looking at it directly. And it won't surprise you, but practice, 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 and we'll be doing it pretty easily.
Hey, perfect. Thank you for the advice.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. I hope this was of some use and you got something out of it. And we'll do it again on August. Let me look at my calendar here. It's August 5th. It's just the first Wednesday of August. And the sky, we will actually have night then.
And our noctilucent clouds will be gone.
Our noctilucent clouds will be gone, but it'll start getting darker. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Alistair. And
Thank you, everyone.
we'll
Thanks, gentlemen.
see you later. Thanks.
Have a good evening.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you, Anna.
Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.